In the heart of a forgotten countryside, shrouded by the whispering winds and cloaked under the eternal mists, looms the sinister silhouette of Ravenwood Manor. It's a place so steeped in dread and whispered legends that even the bravest souls dare not speak its name after dusk. Here the echoes of the past are not mere memories, they are alive, breathing a chilling life into the night air, waiting, watching. The manor itself, with its crumbling facades and shadowed windows, seems to pulsate with a malevolent life of its own. Its walls, veined with the ivy of time, hold secrets so dark, so deep that they twist the very nature of reality. This is not just a tale of ghosts and ghouls, but of something far more sinister. The remnants of the Blackwood family, their dark dealings, and the adventurers who dared to uncover the truth, only to become part of the manor's tragic lore. The Blackwood family, once noble, spiraled into the abyss of the occult and madness over generations. Their name became synonymous with unspeakable horrors, whispered by locals only with a shiver. It was said they communed with the darkest forces, seeking power and eternal life. With each generation, the family's practices grew more depraved. They delved into necromancy, summoning what should have stayed dead. The manor became a focal point for these dark energies, cursed by the rituals performed within its walls. The last of the Blackwoods vanished one stormy night. The villagers found the manor abandoned, save for the echoes of tormented souls. It stood a brooding monument to the family's dark legacy, waiting for the unwary to uncover its secrets. The journey to Ravenwood Manor was as foreboding as the tales that preceded it. The adventurers, lanterns in hand, traversed the twisted path that cut through the dense, whispering woods. Mist hung low, obscuring the ground and muffling sounds, creating a blanket of eerie silence. As they neared, the manor emerged from the fog, its imposing structure casting a shadow even in the moonless night. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the very atmosphere was warning them to turn back. Faint sounds, perhaps laughter, perhaps cries, filtered through the trees, challenging their resolve. Ignoring every instinct screaming for retreat, the group pressed on. Their lights flickered unnaturally as they approached the decrepit gates, which swung open with a haunting creak, as though the manor itself was inviting them in, or trapping them forever. Standing before the great oak doors of Ravenwood Manor, the adventurers felt a palpable shift in the air, a chilling gust that seemed to pass through them, reaching into their very souls. With a collective breath, they pushed the doors open, the hinges groaning like the cries of the damned. The interior was shrouded in darkness, the only light provided by their flickering lanterns casting monstrous shadows. A thick dust hung in the air, carrying a faint, unidentifiable odour of decay. As their eyes adjusted, the outline of a grand foyer unfolded, its once magnificent artifacts now cloaked in cobwebs and despair. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, unintelligible yet unmistakably pleading. Each step forward was a step deeper into the unknown as the house seemed to breathe around them, the walls pulsating slightly as if alive. As they delved deeper into the manor, the corridors twisted in confusing, unnatural ways. The layout defied logic, with rooms leading into one another in a maze-like fashion, each turn and doorway plunging them further into darkness. The walls were lined with bizarre arcane symbols, circles, triangles, and lines interconnecting in complex arrays. These symbols throbbed with a faint, eerie glow, as if imbued with a malevolent life. The air around these markings was noticeably colder, sending shivers through the team as they passed. With each step, a sense of dread grew. It wasn't just the fear of what might lurk around each corner, but a deeper, more existential terror. The manor wasn't just a house. It was a puzzle box of paranormal phenomena, each room a trap waiting to spring. It happened in an instant. A shadow, darting across the beam of a flashlight, too swift to be seen, too silent to be heard. But it was felt. Every member of the group felt a cold hand graze their back, a whisper in their ear, though no words were discernible. Panic took hold momentarily as they tried to rationalize. Shadows. An animal. But deep down, they knew they were not alone. The air grew thick, electric, charged with a palpable sense of anticipation, as if the manor itself was holding its breath. Then, the temperature dropped. Breath became visible, and in the cold mist, forms began to materialize, faint human shapes, shifting in and out of existence. The adventurers stood frozen, caught between the desire to flee and the need to know more. Seeking answers, they stumbled upon a grand gallery. The walls were lined with portraits, each depicting members of the Blackwood family. The eyes of the painted figures seemed to follow them, filled with sorrow and madness, as if aware of their observers. As they moved through the gallery, the air stirred. The portraits began to weep, tears of black ichor dripping down onto the floor. Soft whispers filled the room, each portrait murmuring secrets of the past, begging for release or threatening damnation. One adventurer reached out to touch a frame, and the face within screamed, a sound so torturous that the painting itself seemed to warp, the expression twisting into one of agony. The room grew colder, the whispers louder, until the gallery felt alive with the tormented souls of the Blackwood lineage. The further they ventured, the more voices filled the hollow spaces of the manor. At first, these whispers were mere fragments, sounds without meaning. But slowly, words began to form, calling out to the adventurers by name, beckoning them deeper into the heart of Ravenwood. "Come closer," they hissed, their tone both inviting and menacing. "See what lies beneath." These voices seemed to emanate from nowhere and everywhere, impossible to trace, yet distinctly real. The adventurers felt their sanity fraying at the edges as the boundary between the living and the dead blurred. One voice, clearer than the others, began to narrate the history of the manor, speaking of dark rituals and blood sacrifices. It promised answers, it promised truth. But at what cost? The voice led them to the old library, the air thick with the smell of mold and ancient secrets. The library was a cavernous room, shelves stretching up into darkness, filled with books whose covers were bound in strange leathers. The tomes were thick with dust, their pages filled with esoteric symbols and languages long forgotten. The air was thick with the musk of old paper and whispered secrets. As they brushed their fingers over the spines, the books seemed to whisper back, rustling pages turning of their own accord. One book fell open, revealing diagrams of disturbing rituals and grotesque figures. The text, though in an unknown script, pulsed with a sinister energy that seemed almost inviting. Ignoring the dread that clawed at their minds, the adventurers began to read. Words lifted from the pages, hanging in the air, forming images of past horrors enacted in the very halls they now stood. The knowledge was intoxicating, but with each page turned, the line between reader and read blurred further. They found the dining hall set as if for a grand feast, though no living soul had dined there in decades. The table was laden with decaying remnants of food, plates set for guests long gone. Candelabras flickered to life as they entered, casting unsettling shadows against the walls. As they moved through the room, the air grew unnaturally cold, and the food began to rot before their eyes, turning to dust and ash. Chairs moved on their own, scraping against the wooden floor, as if invisible occupants were settling in for the meal. Suddenly the room was filled with the sound of laughter and chatter, as though a ghostly banquet were in full swing. Glasses clinked and silverware clattered against bone china, the eerie sounds of a celebration that had no part in the world of the living. Amidst the spectral feast, a figure materialized at the head of the table. She was ethereal, her features blurred, yet her presence commanded the room. "Welcome," she whispered, her voice echoing with a melancholy that filled the hall. "You seek answers. I can give them." She spoke of the Blackwoods, of their quests for power through forbidden rituals. She revealed the source of the haunting, the spirits trapped within the manor, including her own, bound to the earthly realm by the very acts that sought to transcend it. The apparition offered them a choice: join her in her eternal banquet, or leave and never return. But leaving meant forgetting everything they had learned. The adventurers, minds reeling from the horrors and wonders they'd witnessed, were torn. As the night wore on, reality became a thin veil, easily torn by the horrors that stalked Ravenwood Manor. The adventurers found themselves slipping, their thoughts no longer entirely their own. Hallucinations plagued their vision, each more vivid and terrifying than the last. Rooms seemed to breathe, walls pulsing with a sinister life. Time lost meaning, clocks spun backward, the moon danced erratically across the sky. They saw themselves among the portraits in the gallery, heard their own screams mingling with those of the ghostly feast. Paranoia took root. Trust faltered as each member of the group suspected the others of conspiring with the manor's spirits. Isolation felt like the only safety, yet it was in solitude that the manor's whispers grew loudest, driving them further into despair. Deep within the bowels of the manor, they discovered the ritual chamber. It was a room devoid of natural light, filled with symbols etched into the ground, encircled by scorched earth. At its center stood an altar, stained with the residue of countless sacrifices. The energy here was overwhelming, oppressive. The air vibrated with the echoes of screams long past, the residue of pain and fear palpable. As they approached the altar, visions assaulted them. Flashes of the rituals that had been performed there, each more gruesome than the last. It was here that the adventurers realized the full extent of the Blackwoods' depravity. But it was also here that they found the means to end the haunting. An ancient tome, its cover clasped with iron, detailed a ritual of cleansing. But the cost of such magic was as dark as the forces it aimed to banish. As they prepared the ritual, the manor seemed to sense their intentions. The air grew thick, the darkness palpable, as if the house itself was closing in on them. Shadows twisted into forms both grotesque and pitiful, pleading, threatening. One adventurer, driven mad by the house's torments, turned against the others. In a moment of chaos, a knife gleamed, and then blood, the final sacrifice unwillingly given. The scream of the betrayed adventurer echoed through the halls, a sound so pure in its agony that it momentarily silenced the manor's own horrors. The ritual completed in this unintended way, the manor shook as if in the throes of death. Light burst through windows long obscured, rushing in like a flood, cleansing the darkness. The surviving adventurers fled, the manor crumbling around them, its cries of rage and pain chasing them into the night. They did not look back as the structure imploded, a cacophony of breaking wood and shattering glass marking the manor's final death throes. They emerged into the cold light of dawn, the manor now nothing but rubble. But even as they left the cursed grounds, the sense of something watching, something following, lingered. They had escaped the physical confines of Ravenwood Manor, but could they ever, truly, leave it behind? Their hearts pounded in their chests, not just from exertion, but from the dread of what might have attached itself to their souls in that place of darkness. In the weeks that followed, each survivor felt the shadows of Ravenwood creeping into their lives. Doors would slam without wind, whispers filled their ears in quiet moments, and at night the echoes of the manor's horrors played out in their dreams. One by one, they began to disappear. Some said it was madness that took them. Others spoke of a darker fate. Each disappearance was preceded by signs, ominous symbols appearing on mirrors, the scent of decay permeating their homes, the feeling of being watched intensifying. It became clear that the curse of the Blackwoods, bound for centuries to the manor, had found new hosts. Ravenwood Manor was gone, but its legacy was far from over. The village near Ravenwood Manor thrived on tales of the cursed estate, each telling more elaborate than the last. After the manor's destruction, these stories took on a new life. The surviving adventurers were woven into the legend, their fates a warning to those who dared to meddle with the unknown. Whispers among the villagers spoke of seeing shadows moving in the woods where the manor once stood, of hearing screams in the wind. The site became a place of pilgrimage for thrill-seekers and paranormal researchers, eager to touch the remnants of a true haunting. But the villagers knew better. They kept their distance, their warnings stern. Ravenwood was gone, but its curse lingered. They watched as outsiders ignored their advice, drawn to the allure of the cursed grounds, much like the adventurers had been. The few adventurers who remained tried to reintegrate into their old lives, but found it impossible to shake the shadow of Ravenwood. Objects in their homes moved of their own accord, and they caught glimpses of figures standing in corners, only to disappear when confronted. Therapists and priests were consulted, exorcisms performed, but nothing alleviated the haunting. It became clear that what had followed them from the manor was not something that could be easily banished. It was a part of them now, as much as any memory or scar. In desperation, they sought out each other, hoping that together they might find a way to end their torment. But as they reunited, so too did the strength of the haunting increase, as if their shared experiences had forged a stronger link to the darkness. Years passed, and the tale of Ravenwood Manor grew. Books were written, films made, each attempting to capture the essence of the horror that had unfolded within those cursed walls. The manor became a symbol of ultimate terror, a story to chill the blood of anyone who heard it. Paranormal enthusiasts debated theories about the nature of the haunting, while psychologists discussed the impact of such trauma on the survivors. The manor's influence permeated culture, becoming a touchstone for discussions about the supernatural and human psyche. Yet for those who had experienced its horrors firsthand, Ravenwood was not a mere story. It was a continuing nightmare, a chapter of their lives that refused to close, a dark legacy that they would carry forever. So ends the tale of Ravenwood Manor. But let it not end without imparting a lesson. This story is a testament to the allure of the unknown and the dangers that come with it. For those who seek to uncover the hidden corners of the world, be warned. The darkness is real and it is powerful. It preys on the curious, the brave, the reckless. Remember the adventurers who walked the halls of Ravenwood, who sought knowledge and found terror. Remember that some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Let this story be a beacon, a warning light in the dark. Venture not into places forsaken by time and shadow unless you are prepared for what might follow you back. For as much as we know, there is much that remains hidden, and not all mysteries are meant to be solved.